Hey, everybody. It is Friday, it is Sunday, and we know what that means. Did I say it is Friday, it is Sunday? I was supposed to say it is Friday, it is sunny, because that was weird. But we still know what this all means. That is right, baby. It is episode 106 of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. It is still I, Allister Carrington, trusted realtor, not being able to figure out if it's Friday or Sunday or what is going on, alongside our main man, our mortgage broker, our trusted mortgage guru, Geoff Lee. Woo, Geoff, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I came off an extended long weekend, self-made,
Yeah, you went camping or something.
And went and hiked up to Ten Quill Lake with 7 other people, and it was it was smoke-free. It was relatively bug-free.
Wow.
Anybody that is up in that Pemberton area and wants to go on a fantastic hike, Ten Quill Lake was amazing.
Nice. That's awesome.
And you guys bagged some peaks, as they say.
Okay.
And, that's the mountaineering way of summiting a couple mountains, which was pretty cool. And did some I think they call it class 3 scrambling.
I have no idea what that means, Geoff.
Came out of it alive.
Scrambling? What is that?
My understanding with class 3 scrambling is you're going up a part of the mountain that you always have to have 3 points of contact on, right? That's kind of a class 3 scramble, just as far as a safety measure goes. So yeah, I think goes all the way up to class 5. So class 3 is probably, I'm going to say, advanced intermediate, but you can have open cliffs on one side, but it's kind of like climbing a ladder. You just need to have 3 points of contact, and if you're not having 3 points of contact, you're probably not putting yourself in the most ideal position.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got anything else planned for the weekend, or is that it? Was that
You know what? That's it. I don't after that, my body is a little bit torn, so hopefully we're just gonna relax and take it easy. Spend some time in the hot tub.
That's crazy, man, because that just puts everything that I did to shame. Because I did nothing. Michelle and I had just kind of chilled out. We went out for a walk and enjoyed just kind of enjoyed the week. And then this weekend, the kids have all gone. So Michelle and I are single, just single people again. So we've forgotten what that's like. So we have no idea what to do. I even said, you know what? I'm going to take the afternoon off after we do the pod and everything like that. We'll go out, we'll do something fun. We can't remember what that's like. So so we're trying to figure out how to be kid free, which is fun.
You know what? That reminds me. Me and Christina had a night out, and we went to. We started off at the Kiefer Bar, which is a cocktail lounge down in just outside of Chinatown. It was rated like a top 5 cocktail bar in North America. It might even have been the top 3. Then we wandered over to a restaurant called June, and it was I think it was June or Emmer. But anyways, we went to a nice restaurant, had some great cocktails, had some great food. Then we went over to another place, kind of like a speakeasy called La Lala, and it was a fun night. It was a fun night. Didn't feel the best the next day, but great cocktails, really unique cocktails. Not just your Caesars and your gin and tonics, but some really cool kind of. I had a bread pudding whiskey sour.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Right? That sounds weird. That sounds crazy.
It was weird. And then a white rabbit martini, and
Okay.
just unique kind of cocktails. But
Nice.
yeah, if you're
Nice.
going down to Vancouver, I would highly suggest the Kiefer Bar. And
That's awesome.
June and Ember are two other places that we went to.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. We might check that out. Awesome, buddy. Well, let's kick it, man. Let's get into it. We're gonna get this thing all. We've got so much to talk about today. Sorry, I just got lost on what I wanted to say. It's already Friday. I'm already thinking about the weekend. But we got so much to get into today. So as always, let's kick it with the hottest segment in podcast, and that is...
Did you know?
That's right, baby. Did you know? So, folks, and Geoff, this Did You Know is a follow-up on something that we talked about. I can't believe, actually, it's been like almost a year since this happened. But this Did You Know is not a warning, but it was a fear that Geoff and I had that might come up due to an event that occurred. So let me get into it. Quick reminder of where it all started. Last year, a BC Supreme Court justice ruled in an 863-page judgment that the Cowichan tribes hold title to land in Richmond that sits legally above the standard property rights of the people who currently own it. So this goes back, Geoff, to that whole title fiasco that was going on in Richmond.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's been a year. Already. I actually had to go back through the notes and through the pods and all that sort of stuff. So time already flies by so fast. But to go into it, the judge put it plainly: existing fee simple ownership in that area was defective and invalid. She called the Aboriginal title the senior interest in the land. The opposition put it more bluntly still: this cracked open the door for land title in this province to mean nothing. So Geoff and I, as we discussed, this needed to be resolved quickly. That's what you and I had said, not because of politics, but because of confidence. We had talked about the entire real estate system in this country runs on one basic assumption: when you hold clear title to a property, that title is secure. The moment the public stops believing that, borrowing, investment, and everyday buying and selling all get harder for everyone, Indigenous and non-Indigenous alike. So is that happening, is the question. A new poll by a company called Research Co, just measured it, and the numbers back up exactly what Geoff and I were worried about. Nearly half of British Columbians now say the ruling, as it stands, effectively erases private property ownership. That's not a legal reading, that's a public belief. So the public believe now that the ruling erases private ownership, and belief is actually what drives the market. So here's the number that stood out most to me. When the Cowichan tribes say they have no intention of displacing anyone from their current home, fewer than half of the British Columbians find that believable. So we have less than half the population, or half the people interviewed or surveyed, believe that the Cowichan tribes are not trying to take our land. Right? So that's a trust gap now. And trust, once it cracks in something as foundational as land title, it doesn't repair itself that easily, nor that quickly. And this has already moved off the page into real decisions. Most Colombians think that the city of Richmond did the right thing, sending official letters to the property owners in the affected area, warning that the ruling may compromise the status of their ownership.
Yeah,
that's a municipal government formally telling residents their title might not be as solid as they thought. That's the erosion we flagged, and now that's become the headline. And now, to be fair to the full picture, most British Columbians are not calling for reconciliation itself to end. This isn't a backlash against the broader goal. It's something narrower, and frankly more telling, a specific and growing unease about whether the fee simple system itself still means what everyone assured it meant. And so where does that leave us months later? Well, that's what I wanted to bring to you, Geoff. Do you think that there is going to be a fast and clear resolution to all of this? Ideally from a higher court, so that we can now put to rest people's fears? Or what do you think needs to happen going forward now that we see, people's fears starting to show up in these surveys?
And again, this is a one man's opinion, right?
I understood. So, that's why I'm asking. It's one man.
I think, and again, we talk about this all the time. It comes down to the messaging that we hear in the media. It comes down to what is going to create news and what is going to create, in this case, fear. And it's really easy to get misled as far as what is happening in this situation. And again, a lot of times finding opinions and information on what you're already believing, which may not necessarily be true, right? So again, for myself, I don't see this being a future issue. I see this being a concern, but again, it goes back to if I forget which tribe, or not tribe, which is the
Cowichan?
I just find it very difficult to believe that something that has been fee simple is going to go back to native lease land, right? I think there probably is going to be a monetary solution to it. But I would just find it very difficult to believe that free simple land is going to go back into native lease land. It would just create so much layers of issues and problems. It goes back to what I've said as far as, if that is the case, then what happens on the municipality side of things with all those property taxes you paid for all those years? What is going to go on the federal side of things with maybe all the capital gains you had to pay when you purchased and sold on that land? What's going to happen provincially with all the details that follow that? It just opens up such a huge rabbit hole. And that's not to say that, this again, historically or factually speaking, is native lease land. But how can you unravel the last X amount of years and make that, and not necessarily make it right or make it whole? It just seems like it's just so much. How is that going to look for the people that have lived there, the people that are now living there? And again, if this goes back to that native lease land, all the legalities behind it when it was fee simple, right? So I don't know. That's a very simplistic way of thinking about it. Probably maybe too simple. But again, I just can't see that happening. I think the Cowichan region is going to get a huge monetary probably payout of some kind. They may have some kind of right, a continued right to that land. But as far as the homeowners who are on it, I don't think it's going to affect them quite the way that they believe it to, based on what the media is spinning out as far as creating that fear side of things.
So I agree with everything you said. I think that the biggest miss in all of this, and I think the survey shows it, is that the communication throughout this whole process to the public has been awful. Right? Because what was said and what the Cowichan tribe said themselves is they weren't going after any of the private fee the private titles, right?
Yeah.
Private property of people. It was after public land. They were trying to establish the rights over public land,
Yeah.
not private land. So they weren't going after anybody's homes. They full out said, we don't want to come after anybody. We're not trying to make this about anybody else's home. This is only about public land. Yeah. Right. And so I think right there, by not expressing that more and making that more prevalent throughout the discussion, and reassuring people that this wasn't about your house, that this was about a park, right? Or a facility, you know what I mean? Or a big facility, right?
Well, they did the complete opposite. And that's the problem, is that most people will just listen without digging a little bit deeper.
Right. And I think that that's the unfortunate thing, because you see that what that does now is it brings erosion and distrust. And we already live, let's be honest, we already live in an emotionally charged freaking society. Like, we are crazed human beings, just frothing at the mouth for us to hear just something that we don't like, right? And the media, they're excited because that's what has turned all of these people into billionaires now, because they make so much money off of this. So we really do have to be that much more cognizant about how we frame things to people, and how important it is to properly educate people about things, because this is how we have the loss of trust in institutions, right? Because we don't get educated properly with it, right? So now we have people not trusting the fee simple system, because they think that the Cowichan tribe is trying to take back their land, when that's not even the case.
Yeah.
Right. And in fact, the whole thing has been charged to go back to litigation, so that it does get decided in court, with the Cowichan tribe being resolved financially, and them getting money, and it being settled out that way. Right. So in order to keep trust, everybody, the Cowichans and the province of British Columbia, want to keep the fee simple system solid, and everybody having trust in it. So I think that's something that like you said, the communication around it has just been awful. And we just need to do a better job at
it's just, again, another classic example of something that's a sexy headline that basically creates, again, we've said it a billion times, like, the media is there to sell sex, fear, and that's it. Right?
That's it.
If it ain't sexy, if it isn't fearful, it isn't newsworthy. And then if we as a public aren't doing due diligence on our end, and most people don't, right? Like, most people aren't digging deeper as far as what this really means. This is what we say. And again, we're so social media kind of reliant, and and information based. We just jump on any of those social media outlets. We get that opinion that resonates, or that basically it becomes believable, and that's the narrative you believe, right? So
I know we got you to get into, and I don't want to get sidetracked off. But you made actually a really good point there, and it made me think of my daughter. So my daughter, trying to get my daughter to watch a movie is impossible now, right? Because she goes, no, none of us watch movies anymore. We go on TikTok, we can basically get the clips, and we watch it in 4 minutes, and we basically get the gist of the movie. So kids these days are essentially consuming a 2-hour movie in the 4-minute basically coming soon trailer.
Yeah.
Is that happening to adults now, right? To us as people? Are we now consuming, is our beliefs and our thoughts now being framed off of a 4-minute clip, as opposed to the 2-hour story? Like, you know what I mean? Do you think that that's what's happening now? We are framing our decisions now just off of like the clip, the headline, and just nothing else?
Yeah. I
That's crazy.
ask yourself, Allister, even what you do at the end of each night, right? Like you're on your phone, what like, and again, I'm not painting everybody with the same brush, but a lot of us will get on our phone, we'll just go scroll through the reels, depending on what we're into, is really what you're getting fed. And again, if you have that narrative, be it right or be it wrong, the algorithms are also picking on that, which just reinforces, what your narrative is.
Yeah.
And even back to your daughter is, with your daughter with a 4-minute reel figuring out a 2-hour movie, if you take a look at a real complex movie, you're not going to have all the underlining meanings in a 4-minute trail, right? So, or trailer. So again, but yeah, everything that is happening now is all about how fast can I get it? How simple can I make it? And the less work I need to do to get the information I need is exactly what I want. I had this conversation yesterday. Like even we can even go to the point of handwriting. Like me, I print, right?
Yeah, so do I.
But again, you take a look at my kids, which are 22, 23, and 24 now, and even I'm going to pass it down on to your kids, which are much younger. Do they even learn how to handwrite anymore?
Nope.
Right? So
no, they don't learn it at all. Yeah,
so it's all keyboard. It's all on the keyboard and whatnot. So again, everything is, which to me is a detriment, because a lot of times I think we're losing our education base because we have made it simpler, right?
Yes.
How often are we using AI to figure out some of the stuff? And AI is great, by the way. But again, if not used carefully and correctly, again, AI is just kind of like your best friend in a lot of ways. It's just telling you what you already want to hear, right?
Yeah.
So again, we have to be careful as far as where we're getting our information from. We have to be careful about the narrative we are believing, and we have to just, again, we have to be open to other people's opinions. And that's the other thing that I find that people are gearing away from now, is that, hey, if you don't agree with me, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to do it. And I don't want to even talk to you because your opinion is different than mine. We're not open to people's opinion. All right. Like a lot of us are not open. We want to hear our narrative. We want to surround ourselves that are going to reinforce our narrative. And as a result, I believe we've become very closed-minded in what we're believing in. And again, this is just another example as far as what we've been fed, what we believe, and now we're starting to hear other sides of the story and circling back to it and say, hey, this is actually what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, that's the did you know, and now you do.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, what I want to jump into a little bit, we're going to switch gears actually quite a bit. Usually a lot of this stuff transitions quite nicely.
Right.
But I want to talk about your mortgage is approved, Allister.
Yep.
And these are, I'm going to put a number on it, 7 things you should not do before closing. Right. A lot of times, and this is very similar information about when you get pre-approved.
Sure.
And the things you should not be doing before you actually get a purchase in place. But this is very, very similar, is that your mortgages, your offer has been accepted, your conditions have been removed, your mortgage is approved. Now what? And these are the things that you do not want to be doing prior to your closing date or your completion date.
Yeah.
Throw me one. What do you believe one is? 1 out of the 7. We're just going to do 7.
Okay. Well, this is the one that I always throw to my clients because it happened to a colleague of mine, and he told me about it, and I laughed so hard when I first started this journey, this career. And it's, don't buy a new car.
Yeah.
once you're, or before closing,
yeah.
because it collapses financing.
Well, again, exactly. Like a lot of times, and when people get approved, they think that it's done. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now I can move forward. I always tell people it isn't done until basically you have moved in on the completion date,
Yeah.
right? Or not until the day of completion. What you do the day after completion is totally up to you, and it's not going to blow anything apart.
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy a new car the day after you complete your purchase and everything is completely done, hey, that's on you. But if you're going to go and finance a new car or go to the brick and basically get your house fully furnished because you're ready to move in, you have to understand that every $600 payment you have takes away $100,000 of your borrowing power. And if that lender does an internal audit on you before the property completes, all of a sudden you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Apparently this guy went into the bank and was just raving mad, just screaming and just going every which way. I was approved for my mortgage, and so it shouldn't matter what I do now. And da 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 da. The guy went bananas. It didn't work.
Yeah. Well, and again, keep in mind, I'm talking about when you've purchased a home.
Yeah.
You've got your condition of finance in place.
Yep.
You now have removed all the conditions
subjects.
to the purchase.
Yep.
And now you're in a firm and binding sale waiting for the completion date.
Yes,
right?
This is what he did. Yes. And then bought a car.
Yeah. And again, say, for example, that car payment was $400,
Yep.
right? That $400 affects your borrowing power roughly by about $60,000.
Yep.
Takes away from your borrowing power.
Yep.
So again, if your ratios or your debt servicing was tight, and now all of a sudden there is an internal audit prior to the completion date done by the lender, and all of a sudden this new debt is now disclosed, again, you may not qualify for the amount that you want to borrow. And then what?
Yep.
Right. And then the wheels fall off. You now are in a firm and binding sale that you can't complete. Right. And now all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of other issues that you now need to deal with. So again, folks, if you have a firm and binding offer in place and you are just waiting for the lawyers to give you a call so you can basically complete on your purchase, do not buy a new car.
Yeah. So.
Right. The other thing is don't open any new credit, right? And again, I use the example of going to the brick or going to Jordan's and all of a sudden furnishing your new place and saying, hey, it's 0% interest. There is not a monthly payment on it. But again, remember, any new debt that you have is, again, if there is an internal audit that happens before your completion date, your financing all of a sudden may not debt service because you have additional liabilities that you've now incurred, right? And again, remember, every $600 payment you have, Allister, takes away $100,000 of your borrowing power.
Yeah.
Every $14,000 of credit card debt you have or unsecured line of credit debt you have takes away $100,000. And again, this debt you may not have had when you purchased the place, but this is the debt that you've now incurred because you have felt that, hey, this thing is complete. And now I've just went and furnished my new house. I just went and bought a new car. I just went and bought whatever. Again, any debt that you have now incurred takes away from your borrowing power, right?
No,
and again, yeah.
Geoff, sorry to interrupt, but quick question: how often do they do an internal audit? Like, how often do they do an audit like that before completion?
I'm going to say it's very, very rare, Allister.
Okay.
But it does happen.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In my 16 years being a mortgage broker, none of my files have ever had an internal audit that I was aware of. And all of a sudden the financing went from approved, firm and binding, approved, you're waiting for the solicitor, you're waiting to complete. In all my years, that has never happened to any one of my files. That also being said, we're very, very clear with our clients to say, hey, look, you're approved. These are your next steps. This is what you do not want to do. So we've also educated them as far as what not to do until the day after completion. And again, once it completes and once it's all said and done and all the money has been transferred and all the mortgage has been in place, if you want to go buy a new car, go and buy a new car after the completion date. If you want to go furnish your apartment or your house at Jordan's or the Brick, go and do that after the completion date. But what you do not want to do is doing any of that before the completion date. Just in a rare case that your file gets an internal audit on it, and all of a sudden this new debt is disclosed, and all of a sudden you don't qualify for the money that you want to borrow. And again, because you are now in a firm and binding agreement, everything has been removed. This is a whole nother issue and a whole nother pod that we can talk about as far as what happens when you fail to complete on a firm and binding purchase.
Yeah, that's not a fun time. That's court. That's getting sued. That's called getting sued.
Yeah. Not a good time at all.
No.
And again, the other thing is don't run up your credit cards. Like I said, every $14,000 of money owing on a credit card or a line of credit affects your borrowing power by $100,000.
Yeah.
Right. So again, some people may not go and get the financing of that new car or furniture. They might just use their credit cards or their line of credit to go and do it and not finance it. But again, remember, every $600 payment that you have, car payment, furniture payment, affects your borrowing power by how much, Allister?
100,000.
Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually go and buy this on my line of credit or my credit card. Every $14,000 owing on a line of credit or a credit card affects your borrowing power by how much?
100,000.
So again, if you're going to do that, when should somebody do that, Allister? Should they do that before the completion date or should they do that after the completion date?
After. I don't recommend going into debt, but go into debt after. Get your home and then go into all the debt you want.
Exactly. Here's the other thing too. And again, don't suddenly change your job.
Yeah, that's always a big one. That's because it's like, oh my goodness, I got offered a promotion into some other company and I can't turn this down. Oh no.
Yeah. and again, keep in mind, when you're in a new job, typically you're on a probation period.
Yep, 3 months.
And keep in mind that lenders do not recognize income if you're in a probation period. Not in every case, but again, just to keep this at a very high level, if you're on a probation period, the lender will not recognize your income until you're after that probation period is done.
Yep.
Right? Keep in mind, if all of a sudden you're working for a company and now all of a sudden you went from like a salary into a commission structure.
Yeah.
Lenders don't recognize commission income until you've been in that same role earning commission income for a period of 2 years.
That's what I was going to say. That's the big one that commission people need to understand.
Right.
2 years.
So again, I've worked on files not after everything has been done, but even before. And again, this is a very similar conversation as far as what not to do when you get pre-approved looking for a purchase. This conversation, that's kind of the same conversation, the things you don't do after you're approved in a firm and binding, but you do not want to basically change your job because again, you may be on a probation period and then maybe your income is not going to get recognized. You don't want to go from a salary position, even if it's with the same company, into a commission position, because again, a lender will not recognize commission income unless you've been in that same role earning commission for a period of 2 years, right? And again, you don't want to all of a sudden be working in an industry and then all of a sudden decide that you want to become self-employed, right? Again, that being said, there are ways we can position the file prior to getting everything done in a pre-approval state when you are working in the same industry and now you become self-employed within the same industry. Like, there are ways that we can position the mortgage product to do what we call stated income. But again, remember, this is after you've removed the subjects. This is now you're in that firm and binding sale, and you are now waiting for the completion date, right? This is to do that particular thing before we can position and we can set that up properly. But to do it after is something you just do not do.
Nope.
And again, definitely don't quit your job.
Yeah.
Right? and again, actually, I have seen all of this. Not necessarily after the firm and binding sale and the completion. I've seen a lot of this before when we are in the pre-approval stages, and when we're talking about it, and now it's coming to a live purchase, and all of a sudden you're updating the details of the application. There has been people that have changed their jobs and now are in a probation period. There are people that have been in a salary position that are now commissioned. There have been clients of ours that have been working in the industry as an employee and now becoming self-employed. Like, trades are really common for that, right?
Yeah.
So again, these things, I've actually seen all of this stuff prior to an accepted live agreement. I have never seen, well, not that I'm aware of, have seen this after. But again, these are, again, folks, are the things that you just do not do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Other thing, again, I've said this before, don't create a money paper trail mess. Like, your down payment and your closing costs needs always have to be really clean and properly documented, right? Again, the lender, this is all based purely on the perception that your file is going to get audited before the completion date, right? But again, you want to make sure that your money trail, as far as where the down payment is coming from, as far as where the closing costs are coming from, are very, very clean, right? So again, part of the condition to finance is to satisfy this condition where the down payment and the closing cost is coming from. But what you'd want to do is make sure that everything remains clean. So again, if there is an internal audit prior to the completion date from the lender, you're not chasing for 1 billion documents because you moved money to 3 separate accounts. It does become a real mess for you, right?
Yeah. The one thing too, I don't know if it makes sense to touch on it at this juncture, but I think it does, because you remove subjects and then give the deposit, is remembering that if you're getting the deposit from, let's say, overseas, it's 90 days it's got to be in that account to be recognized.
Yeah. So again, Allister, this is before we would remove all the conditions to finance, with your question there, right? So to answer that.
Is it before? Because typically what happens, and I say this because I know this happened to another colleague of mine, is that they removed subjects, right, without thinking about how long the deposit had to be in. So now
it is before.
Okay.
Like that condition would have been satisfied before, right?
Okay.
So again, to answer that question is, if you have a gifted down payment coming in from overseas, right? Depending on the lender, it can be anywhere from 1 day being in a Canadian banking institution, or it could be 30 days. It all depends on the lender, right?
Okay.
So again, that also being said, that's also a condition to the finance to satisfy the down payment and the closing costs. So that lender would have wanted to see that down payment coming, that gifted down payment coming from overseas. They would have wanted to see that in a Canadian banking institution for whatever their time period was.
Right.
And that then would have satisfied that down payment condition. So what may have happened on your colleague's end is that they just assumed that it was okay, or the lending partner didn't quite clearly communicate it properly. But that would have been, again, something very similar to what we talked about in Did You Know? That would have been a communication error from that lending partner to the realtor to say, hey, everything is good, remove the condition of finance.
Right.
That point in fact, Allister, would have been part of what condition would have needed to be met in order to get the financing, which would have been the down payment condition or the gifted down payment condition.
Right.
So that should have been satisfied even before that subject was removed.
Okay, I got you.
Right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So again, this is all talking about after the fact, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What I want to summarize is just don't assume approved means done, right? So to summarize what you don't want to do, you do not want to incur new debt, right? You want to make sure that your documents prior to all the conditions being met are very clean and very, very accessible, and you're not moving things around a huge amount.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your employment remains the same, right? And you want to make sure that you are asking any questions before you make any financial decisions. Again, after it completes, you can really do what you would like to do, but you definitely do not want to do any of the above. Financing a new car, opening new credit, incurring new debt, changing your job, shuffling your down payment and closing costs into whatever multiple accounts that you have, because approved doesn't necessarily mean that it's done, because in the very slim chance there is an internal audit prior to the completion date. And when I say it's a very slim chance, but again, it can be done. That lender has the right to do it. You just don't want to make sure that anything you've done all of a sudden has an impact on your purchase. So keep it boring. Boring is good, right? Once you're approved, once the conditions of the finance have been met, once you have removed all the conditions to the purchase, until the completion date happens, everything remains the same.
Yep. I think that that's the most important thing to take away from this is like we said, like a lot of all of this also falls into what not to do when you're going through your approval process, right? So the moral of all of this is when you're purchasing a home, keep the main thing the main.
Yeah.
Right? The house is the purchase. That's all. Focus on getting that done. And then afterwards, after all that is said and done, after all the money is changed hands, then go about furnishings and cars in the garage and all of that sort of good things. But keep the main thing the main and keep it clean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's the easiest.
As they say, amen.
Amen.
Let it be.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. It's going to be another nice weekend, another hot weekend. It's still smoky. So I hope you guys are staying safe out there. To the people in Summerland, my in-laws, I guess they're my in-laws. If they're my sister-in-law's parents, are they my in-laws too?
Good question.
I don't know how that works, but they're in-laws. They're amazing people. So all those people in Summerland, I hope you guys are all safe, and we're all thinking about you, and all those people in the affected areas. We're thinking about you. Have an amazing weekend. Thank you again. Continue to love, like us, share us, tell everybody you know about us. Woo. But most importantly, stay empowered, stay informed. And Geoff,
Stay tuned.
That's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.